Hi everyone, this is Mrs. Cross and today we're going to learn how to make a pinch pot. So in the last video I showed you how to make the sphere for the pinch pot. So we made two spheres. They're just about the same size, which is just fine. And I was also wanted to remind you to not put any clay in the sink. So I've got my towel here, and when my hands get dirty, I can wipe my hands on my towel, and then I can wash this out later as long as there's not too much clay on it. I'm only going to be using one of these at a time, so I'm going to go ahead and take my towel and wrap this other one up and just set it aside. And I can go ahead and put it in my plastic bag and set it aside so it doesn't dry out. You want to make sure that you are not leaving your clay out for too long. It will start drying right away, and especially in Colorado we don't have a lot of moisture, so it will dry out very, very easily. If this does happen, you can wet down your towel, you can wrap it back up, put it back in the bag, and in a day or so it will be good again. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and make the pinch pot. So what I wanna do is, first of all, I'm just gonna look at my clay and make sure that there's not any imperfections. And the reason I do this is that if any imperfection in the clay, a line or anything like that, can turn into a crack later on, and that causes problems. Now, today, we're not going to worry too much about cracks, okay, because this is a practice. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a few pinch pots, and they're just going to be practice. So what we're going to worry about are a couple of things, and I have a piece of paper I'm going to show you here about what we're going to worry about. Okay, so our learning intention is that I can make a pinch pot. So that's what we're trying to learn. Now our success criteria right now depends on two things. Remember, this is a practice. So I'm looking to look at two things when I'm making the pinch pot. I want a round form, which means I want the bottom of this pot to be rounded. And I'm going to show you how to keep it round. If it gets too flat, it gets out of hand. It's not good. Now, if we want a flat bottom later with the pot that we make, we can do that. But for now, we're just going to focus on having a round form. And then what we also want is we want the same thickness on all the sides. So I'm going to show you in a little bit that I'm going to cut this in half. And I just have a trusty butter knife here that I got from my kitchen. And so I can use this to cut my clay, and I can just clean it off later and it will be fine. It's not going to hurt anything, okay? But make sure your parents know what you're doing so they don't think, okay, you're going to ruin my silverware, right? You could also use a plastic knife. A piece of string would even work, or a piece of wire to cut. But I find that not everybody has that. So just a butter knife will work just fine for this. Okay, so the same thickness on all the sides, throughout the sides. We want the consistency to be the same. So that means that it's the same thickness at the top than it is at the bottom. And this is what it would look like if it was cut in half. Okay, what we don't want is different thicknesses or it to be too thick. So we have here that we don't want that. So I'm going to show you how to do this. Now, remember, you're not going to worry about the cracks yet. So this is a practice. You don't have to worry about those cracks just yet. So let's just remember, round form, same thickness, okay? All right, here we go. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to take my clay and I'm just going to look for a good spot. And I think this looks pretty good. And I'm going to make a little divot. And I call this a belly button. And what I do is I look at the belly button and I make sure that they're all the way around the belly button, okay? It's right in the center, and that looks pretty good. It looks like there's the same amount of clay here, then there is here, and here, and here, okay? So that looks pretty good. Now that I'm happy with that, if I'm not happy, I can tap this back out, I can do it again. But I think that looks pretty good. So then I'm going to take my thumb, and being right-handed, I'm going to use my right thumb. I have the ball of clay in my left palm, and that's so this stays round. Remember, we want our pot to stay round, so we're going to do everything we can to prevent it from getting flat. Now, if I did this on the table and I made a hole in it, what do you think is going to happen? Well, it's going to get really flat on the bottom. So I want to keep it in my hand, and I'm going to go ahead and make the hole. Okay, so I just pressed the hole in. You probably can't even see the bottom of it. I left about a 1/4 inch to half an inch of clay at the bottom of this, okay? So, because if I go all the way through, then I'm gonna have a colander and not a bowl, right? So I definitely want to have a bowl. Okay, if I'm left-handed, I'm gonna cradle this in my right hand, and I'm gonna use my left thumb to make the hole. Okay, so here we go. Next step. I'm gonna turn the pot so you can see it. Now here's the opening, and I'm gonna turn it. And if I'm right-handed, I'm going to put my thumb in, and I'm gonna wrap my hand around this ball of clay. And you can see that my hand is all the way on the bottom of what's gonna be the bottom of the pot. Okay, if I'm left-handed, it's the opposite. I'm gonna put this, the ball into my right hand. I'm gonna put my left finger in, and I'm gonna wrap my fingers around the clay this way. So that's if you're left-handed. Okay. Now I'll do both of these when we go through this, but eventually will be able to do this either way with your right hand or your left hand. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm really gonna think about this as stations, okay? So when I say stations, okay, here's the top, here's the side that's near the bottom, okay, here's kind of the middle, right here, and then we're getting up towards the rim of the pot, right? Because there's the opening. So I'm really gonna think about this as I'm gonna move from the bottom to the rim or the top, and that is gonna be where I'm gonna move each time I pinch. I'm gonna go around in circles, and I'm gonna move from the bottom to the top. So I'll go ahead and show you that now. So when I do this, what I'm doing is I'm pinching with my thumb, which you can't see that it's inside, but I'm pinching with my thumb, and I'm also pinching with this claw. I've kind of got a claw of my 3 fingers here. And I'm almost pretending like they're fused together. Okay, so I'm gonna pinch the bottom of this. And what I'm doing is I'm just thinning the clay out. I'm actually pushing the clay up, and you can see that the shape of this has changed a little bit, okay? Now we still have a round shape. I am keeping it in my hand. I'm not doing it on the table. It's in my hand, okay? So now I'm gonna move a little bit. So instead of being way up here, now my hand is moved here. Okay, I'm also going to show you this if you're left-handed. Okay, so if I'm left-handed, I've changed positions. This is my my right hand. I'm going to put the pot in my right hand, and I'm going to pinch with my left hand. Doesn't matter if you go clockwise or counterclockwise when you're moving it, just as long as you're moving it. Okay. I'm a little faster with my right hand, so I'm going to go back to that. So notice I'm working my way to the rim, working my way up to the rim, and I'm going to show you this in just a minute. This has gotten a little bit bigger here. All right, so now my pot is a little bit bigger. I've got some little nail marks on the bottom. I can just smooth those out later, okay? And remember, we're not worried about cracks too much. We're just worried about the bottom being round and our sides being consistent all the way through. So that's really what we're worried about. And that's what you're gonna be graded on. So that's the important part. Now, I'm gonna keep going with this. And eventually, this is gonna get quite big. I can pinch this clay pretty thin. Now I'm gonna be, this is going very fast. Okay, and there's one other thing I wanted to show you. So notice how I've kind of changed positions. What I'm doing is I can't fit my hand to the bottom to pinch the bottom. So what I'm doing is I'm putting the pot into my palm. I'm taking my 3 fingers and I'm pressing the clay. You can see I'm making some impressions there. I'm pressing this, press, press, and I'm going around. I'm making this thinner and thinner and thinner, okay? And I can do it like this. Notice how the bottom of my pot is still round. Okay, now later on, if I want to make it flat, I can do that. But right now I'm trying to control that. And remember, this is a practice, so if you're getting cracks, you're not worried about that right now, okay? Because we're just focused on the shape and the sides. Okay, so now I'm gonna show you cutting this in half, okay? I have made this, and now I'm going to cut this in half, and I wanna show you what it looks like from the side. I think if I flip it upside down, it might be a little bit easier. So I'm just gonna give it a little cut here. Okay. But Mrs. Cross, I love it. I don't want to destroy it. Well, you're going to make a lot of these. Trust me, you're going to get very good at it. And this is a learning process. This is how we learn, okay? All right, so now that I'm opening this up, I can look and see how I did on the sides, okay? Now, I definitely have some room for improvement here. This looks pretty good. This is pretty consistent. You see this? But this is a little bit thinner, and this is a little bit thinner, okay? So this is a good thing to look at because I can tell where I need to work on things. I need to work on getting this area a little bit thinner. So everything is the same. Does that make sense? Okay, I hope so. If not, you can always email me. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna smush this back together, and I'm going to put it in my towel. Okay, and then I can make the next one. But I'm not gonna make the next one right now because you can just rewatch the video. But I want you to make 2 pinch pots, and I want you to cut them in half, okay? And then later on this week, you're gonna make a pinch pot and cut it in half and turn it in. But for now, I just want you to practice with making 2 pinch pots. Okay? Thumbs up? Woohoo! All right, I'll see you guys soon. Bye.